I'm Matt.
I'm Kerry.
We are the Stagmer brothers of Baltimore Knife and Sword. We're going to be building some of your favorite weapons, and some weapons that you've never seen before.
This is Man-at-Arms, REFORGED. With all the interest in the new Black Panther film, we've decided to build Zuri Spear.
We've only seen some of the preliminary shots and one or two of the early trailers, but this is definitely a weapon that we thought would be outstanding. This spear has a broad blade and a large central ridge. It'll all be forged in one piece. The tang section coming down that goes into the handle will also be included in that forging. We'll be making the handle out of a couple of pieces that'll be glued up, fitted, and then all the overlays and finish work done to the surface.
To get started on the spear, I've selected these railroad spring clips. They are approximately 1060 high carbon steel, although no one really knows what they are, because if this one is made in 1945 and this one is made in 2003, the alloying elements and the differences in factories will produce relatively different materials. For our purposes, they're basically the same to produce a seamless forge weld, and they're really nice steel. So I'm going to proceed by heating them up and straightening them. That will give me 3 bars. I will wire wrap the bars and forge weld them together. And from then on, I will proceed making the actual spear.
In order to gain enough material to forge our spear blade, Ilya is going to take 3 pieces and forge weld them together. Once he's done that, he's going to move to the power hammer using a set of spring dies shaped like a diamond to initialize his cross section. He's then going to use another set of spring swages that have deep recess in them, leaving a really steep central ridge. There are basically 2 types of spears, a socketed and a tang version. When looking at the artwork from the movie, this is obviously a tang one. So we're going to draw that out nice and long. We're going to make the spear haft out of 2 pieces, like you'd see a traditional Japanese yari or something like that. And then we're going to burn that actual tang into the haft, creating a nice even fit, and then we'll add collars later to make sure it stays nice and snug. Ilya's now completed the first phase of the forging of our spear. Now he's done the hard part already, which is defining that central ridge. The reason a spear like this needs a central ridge is so that we can make the cutting edge super thin. You can see here, it's only about 12 gauge in the thickest parts. So it allows us to have a really nice cutting edge, really super thin like a kitchen knife. But my next step is to go ahead and define the perimeter. You can see I've marked the perimeter with chalk just to give myself a guideline. Really, I want to keep as much width as possible, so I'm going to try to keep it as thick as I can. I'm going to start with a 2-inch wheel here. I'm Then I'm gonna change to a larger radius wheel and do the rest of the outside later. Although this spear point has a thick central ridge, it has very thin sides. So Ilya has to be very careful when heat treating to make sure he doesn't get any warping that will be too difficult to take out after the quench. Once the entire piece is up to temperature, Ilya removes it and quenches it in oil. Everything turned out great. He's just gonna stick it in the anvil and let it cool nice and slowly.
So for our spear, we need to create a handle for it, but as you can see, it has this really long tang section. That's gonna make it difficult to drill out any kind of piece of wood. It's gonna be very time consuming. We're just not gonna do something like that. What we're gonna do is take 2 oak boards. We're gonna cut a channel right down the center of each board on the inside, place the spear inside, and then slab it together, and then cut our handle shape out from there.
All right, guys, at this point in the build, we now have our spear ground, heat treated, and tempered. Rick has milled a slot down either side of our boards that are gonna become the haft of the spear. What I did is I just rough clamped it together and then just put a few dots of super glue down it so that it'll stay together so I can start sanding on it. Let's go ahead and check the fit on our spear. All right, that fits nice and snug, exactly what we want. Nice tight fit, so when we put it all together, there's no wobble in the spearhead. Put this back out. My next goal is to go ahead and just start hogging and removing some material off the wood haft, get it a lot closer to our final shape. Now, one thing we noticed, the other end of the spear, which would be like the counterbalance, has kind of a spade-looking leaf shape to it, but how I'm gonna make it is I'm just gonna grind it integrally right into this wood, sculpt it into place, and grind the rest to shape. I got it pretty much to the final shape. Still got to true everything down a little bit, but I went ahead and I clamped it up, used some wood glue, and made these 2 pieces, turned them into 1. Now it's dried overnight. We can go ahead and take some of the clamps off and really start getting our final shape.
Using the original die on the Iron Kiss hammer, Ilya is going to go in with a scrap of material that has that form and force the overlays to match the shape of the blade. the surfaces where we don't really need any depth, Ferenc is just going to go in with a wood burning tool and cut into the surface. This will leave a nice black line where he lays in the depth. Matt now goes into a small radius wheel and cuts in the design.
All right, the guys went ahead and made up the overlays for our spear. Now I'm going to weld them into place.
John now plug welds the overlays into place. This will allow us to blend it off without changing the design. Matt has to be very careful while edging this. These are actually fairly thin at the edges already, and he doesn't want to go through or burn the edges.
For the wrap that we're going to do on top of the wood, I'm going to be using this thick leather. It gets spiraled with a fairly open gap. To hold it initially, I'm going to set it in with a tack. Once it's in place, I'm going to be able to wet it down with the same stain that we're going to use on the wood. We're going to be able to wet that down a lot. It'll shrink and pull in tight.
This is a really interesting weapon to build. Ferenc stepped in to do the decorative work to really finish it out. I think this weapon turned out great. Click here to subscribe, or click here to watch more episodes. Thanks for watching Man-at-Arms Reforged. We need to know what you want the guys to build, so tell us in the comments below what weapons you want to see next.